girls, and everybody in the place to be. I'm not going to do a rap, but let me just welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, SYLBOURNE SYDIAL here, and welcome to the late one with yours truly. And I just want to thank you so much for coming on to In Review, where we look at some of the top news of the week for you and me and everybody. Uh, Now, I want to just introduce, go straight at it with Keima. Keima, how are you? Are you there, Keima? Yes, you are there.
Kima's muted.
Keima, you mute yourself. Why you mute yourself? Oh, she's not there. Okay, I can't hear Keisha. David, how are you? Can I hear you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Just relaxing, feeling good. This week. This is the first week of lockdown.
First week of lockdown.
First week of lockdown
First week of
is
lockdown.
finally
Yeah.
here. So we've got 3 more weeks left, apparently.
Yes. Keisha, Keima, say yes. Okay, she's gonna go and come back in. Yeah. Let me see. Okay, I tell you what, she'll come back in. Anyway,
Yeah.
David, yeah, you're right about that. It's a very interesting week this week. So far, we are now sorting out the lockdown, and then waboom, we've got the
That's it.
vaccine. Is that
That's
what
it.
we've got the
It's been an
vaccine?
interesting week, isn't it? Lockdown week, election week, and vaccine week. It's a lot to take in. So trials, well, one of many trials that have come through.
Yeah.
Currently 6 in the making. But the good news that we received over the last 24 hours is that there's a vaccine available potentially down the line that's effective. This trial is from Pfizer, included just over 40,000 candidates, and basically it's been found that the vaccine is 90% effective
Yeah.
with preliminary data coming out of the trial. So we just have to watch this space. I think we also have to take a little deep breath as well. I don't again think this is the silver bullet, but it's a good piece of news, and we shouldn't knock any good news that's coming out in recent times, given the fact that we've had one of 2 lockdowns in this country, and loss of life in excess of 50,000, unfortunately. So we're going in the right direction. We just have to wait to see with regards to the safety and efficacy data further. Remember, this is preliminary data that's coming out.
Well, let me just see if I can get in uh, Keima, if she's around there. Keima?
Hello, Silborn. I'm here. Could you hear me?
Hey. Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Well, I heard about lockdown, but I never heard about lockout.
The thing is, I was thinking to myself, I haven't said anything controversial yet, and I'm already locked out.
It's interesting that you talk about controversial, because I've started to fact check some media houses. I fact checked the Metro today. I fact checked Evening Standard. I just found in reason to fact check them, because they fact check me sometimes. So I started to fact check these guys when they make these pronouncements with these clickbait, as much as possible, But David was just giving a sort of touchdown regarding the week regarding lockdown and the new vaccine. Are you excited about the new vaccine?
I am excited, yes, that potentially means that we will be no more lockdown and people will be able to go about their normal business without hesitation and reluctance, and people be able to see their family again. From that point of view, yes, but in terms of whether I'm going to take it myself, I'll probably wait for everybody else and then take it.
Really? So, David, tell us, David, what's your take? What's your take on the vaccine? I mean, and the Pfizer. What is that company? Pfizer or
Yeah,
something like
Pfizer, huge drug company, responsible for many drugs. Am I muted? Am I muted? No.
No, you're okay. You're okay. Okay.
For other ailments. Well, I think I've said this before on this platform, and I say it again to any patient that walks through my door. If a drug has been deemed to be safe and effective, then we have no concerns over taking it. We have testing profiles for the drug. We have safety profiles that have to be met. And also we have to make sure the drug is effective. I think the question in many people's eyes, though, is how do we assess safety? And quite obviously, we need people to be part of trials in order to assess the safety of a particular drug, and that's what we've got. That's where we get our safety data from. I think historically, though, we've had longer time to sort of test the safety and see whether or not there are any sort of after effects with regards to medication that we employ for treatments, whether that's viruses or otherwise. And I think I do sort of share people's concerns regarding the short-lived time that's been allowed for this particular drug to be developed. But of course, there's also the uncertain times that we're living in, and the need to bring out a vaccination in order to get or tick a particular box in regards to trying to get people back into their normal kind of frame of life in regards to their work and life and so on and so forth. So it's a difficult sort of position we find ourselves in regards to the drug itself and having a vaccine available. I think, I don't think that this will be available very, very soon. I think we'll have more time to sort of build upon the notion whether this is going to be safe and effective. And obviously it won't be rolled out for persons until it has been judged that it is safe and effective. And I think it'll be quite selective in that course as well. I think, there are going to be people who are quite vulnerable, unfortunately, and succumb to this particular virus quite easily, potentially. And so they will most likely be the people who will receive the vaccination, or at least be called for to receive the vaccination. Akin to the flu virus, I think that the flu virus itself, we already see as a seasonal virus, people called who are at a higher risk in the community for the flu virus. So, that gives you an idea as to who may well be vaccinated or potentially be called for vaccinations in the first instance.
Well, just looking here, David, and I'm just gonna bring in Tony Kelly, which is here. Britain keep describing itself as a world leader and world beats and keep showing off that regard, and yet it's a Turkish couple who were first past the post with the vaccine. Kudos to them. Well, Tony Kelly is saying kudos to them. But what about the trust factor? Keima, what do you think about the trust factor in regarding to vaccine at this time?
Yeah, well, I mean, David probably could step in and help me out here, but
Yeah.
vaccination doesn't really, from my understanding, come out this soon. It takes a lot of years and testing before it's actually released. So the speed of it, and I think it's why a lot of people are hesitant and about whether they should take it or not. But of course, I mean, apparently it is safe. Pfizer has had a lot of people who've tested it. I mean, there was one doctor in particular who herself actually put herself forward to be tested because she says that she's seen so many people in some of her own patients passed away from it, and well, that's one of the reasons why she put herself forward. But also, she's a black woman, a black doctor, and she said, of course, in the black community as well, because I think there was a percentage coming out the other day about 50% of African Americans will not take it, and so the assuring the black community that it's safe and they should put themselves forward. But I think also there's been history in the past with other drugs as well that's been trial on black people. So I think all in that, in combination of all of that, it does really sort of add to the reasons as to why black people don't want to put themselves forward for it. But of course, we are told it's a safe drug, but not only that. Of course, in the long run, I suspect as well, it's going to be voluntary. So individual will be able to put themselves forward. But I could understand, but I suspect it probably will be conditions attached to it, isn't it? So where if you want to travel, you might need to be able to provide proof that you've taken the drug, that sort of thing. So it's almost like you wouldn't have much of a choice if you want to do certain leisurely activity in order for us to be kept safe. But that's what my initial thoughts on it.
David, do you think that, and I'm not saying that you've got a magic vision or so, do you think that there's going to be some implications if people say, I'm not going to take that, when the country wants to move forward and everybody keeps saying the vaccine that we want? Even Donald Trump, was saying the vaccine, and oh, I've got this vaccine. I knew about this vaccine 5 days before and if, after the election. Do you think that there's going to be an implication if people say, I do not want to take this vaccine? And
I
what
think
would
that's a Yeah, and I think that's a very good question to sort of ask. It's difficult, isn't it, really, in terms of working that out. What I do think is, in terms of civil liberties, I think it would be quite tricky to force anything on anybody. You know, we have rights as patrons of this country to decide what we would like. But I think that, again, I keep saying, if this vaccine is safe and effective, then I don't think there's going to be very little in terms need of persuasion in that regard. We already have vaccines that are out that have proven safety records and effectivity records, and the take up of those vaccinations is very good. So again, I don't have a crystal ball, a magic 8 ball, or whatever ball it is that we would hold to try and make enlightened decisions about the future. But I do think that it's unlikely that people have to be forced to take certain vaccinations. And again, the uptake will be increased the more that people feel safe in taking any particular product, or to help facilitate that uptake. I think it's going to be proven. And if the drug companies, the politicians, the doctors, etc., that get on board with this over time, I think the uptake will increase. And remember, we are just at the flu season as well.
Yes.
So, you know, a lot of people are trying to get the flu vaccine, and that's going to be coupled with this particular vaccine possibly coming out in the next few weeks. You know, we could speculate on when that will be. But again, I think the other thing to mention is that this is not going to be available for everybody, you know, as soon as it becomes available for the country, if that makes sense. We just don't have the sheer numbers available for everybody. And there's also that B word that comes into this as well, that we haven't talked about, the other geezer to the COVID, which is Brexit. And so, you know, that may well just cause a little bit of a ripple in the availability of the medications that are available for us here. So I still think there's time to digest what the effects of this particular vaccination is. I do think that, you know, we can rush to talking about when it will become available, but we haven't got it yet. We don't know when it's going to become available, and we don't know specifically who's going to be at the front of the queue.
Well, I'm just going to take the few contributions from person. Was that doctor giving the placebo or the vaccine? I think Keisha.
I think it was a placebo.
Yeah.
I think it was more she was the placebo.
Okay. And peace and blessing just coming into the building. Okay, so we got a building here. Thank you, Michelle. I'll go back into Michelle and ask her how is America later on. I've heard pharmaceutical company receive legal exemption, so years likely, so they won't be sued as well. And what's the subject you're speaking on tonight? The subject is, as usual, I mean, am I correct? The subject is always the same thing for the past few years. I was saying to somebody, I don't want to talk about Trump, and I don't want to talk about COVID. But then vaccine came and I become the top of the line. And then Trump and Biden going on now with elected president, unelected president. And then there's a situation which has happened. I found this out today. A lady's going around, so her boyfriend is her husband-elect, or she's girlfriend-elect, or something like that. So many things are happening out there. But no, the topic is about the vaccine. So the question I put to persons out there is, what's your take on the vaccine? What's your take? Would you be using it? There was a video going around regarding a school who is even talking about COVID, that the children are found to have COVID. They're isolated. Something in Liverpool. I don't know if that is true, you know. And ladies and gentlemen, just because Keisha is not here, she's still in the building at the same time, as you said, the company which she has mentioned there. So she's in the building, and currently COVID vaccine. Yep. Okay, we got that there. So I think the question is, who is going to take it, and who would actually take it? I mean, I hear what you say, Keima, and I hear what you say, David, but we have seen in the past and today whereby there are people who are having the effect, they say, of previous vaccines over years, and that vaccine takes a while to be effective or to be tested. Who are the persons who are being tested and are bracketed to put themselves forward to be tested?
Well, that's a good question. I don't run any of these clinical trials, so I wouldn't be able to comment on
Yeah.
specifically who's been tested. But we do know that the different sort of vaccinations are being tested in different parts of the world. So, for example, you would have heard of obviously the vaccine that's been employed or made from a Chinese company, utilizing their the vaccination techniques across in Brazil. So, there is a range of people who are being tested in the UKs and Americas, etc., Russia, China, an array of people. So we just have to, again, just watch this space and see how these vaccines sort of play out in regards to their safety profile and how effective they are. I think one of the things which is interesting is that a lot of the companies are using the same kind of modality in regards to how they want to make their vaccine. So essentially, if one of these vaccines work, then it's really good news for the other companies because they're going in the same kind of tangents in regards to production. So again, if this really works, if this is the one vaccine that is really going to help us going forward, then I think we should obviously smile. We should also congratulate persons involved in the process, the scientists who work tirelessly to try and get this to fruition. And it does show as well how well collectively we can make things work as humans. It's a fantastic feat to try and get something off the ground so quickly within a year that we can talk on today, just a year down the line, or less than a year down the line, sorry. That's a magnificent feat in itself. So yeah, let's just watch this space. Let's see how this fanfare falls out and take it from there.
What probably? Sorry, Keima, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think, of course, we've got to stay on track and thinking that the focus the government would be thinking is to reduce the likelihood of the pandemic or the COVID virus spreading, and that would mean targeting the most vulnerable people in our community, those particularly who's been told again that they need to shield. But also, we've heard several times about potentially a Christmas lockdown. And in order to prevent that, the government is talking particularly about students taking the vaccination so they'll be able to come home and see their parents. Whether, for example, if we were to extend the extension beyond early December, whether people will still listen and heed the government advice, I don't know, because the holiday season is very much close to a lot of people's hearts, and already, you don't want people to be breaking the rules, where we should be looking to listen to and adhere to what the government is trying to say.
Now, I was looking at something here, and this is what a professor said, the co-founder of the German firm which developed the vaccine, which is Pfizer, said it would depend on when approval is granted by the UK regulatory authorities. However, he warned that the arrival of his vaccine will not mean the situation will dramatically change by the end of the year. With the help of the vaccine, he said, life could return to normal by the middle of next year. A similar forecast is made by other vaccinologists. So therefore, they are predicting that things will be normal once we have this vaccine. But my mind keeps going back to these films called the Purge and these zombie movies whereby, and maybe I'm being cynical or what, the Manchurian Candidate. When these things goes inside of you and they press this button and all of a sudden everybody becomes zombies. Sorry.
All right, you've gone too left field there for me. I think you're going down to conspiracy theories. No, I don't see that. I don't see a link to 5G, no 5G or any of that jizz. But I appreciate people's fears, anxieties surrounding a vaccination completely, especially when you would have heard that people speculating that certain treatments which haven't worked, unfortunately, and those treatments have fallen by the wayside. So, for example, hydroxychloroquine, that was the in thing a few months back, when people are saying you need to take hydroxychloroquine, and that obviously fell foul. When we talk about vaccinations, it does evoke a sense of uncertainty, and I quite appreciate and understand that. But again, I keep falling back to two particular statements. If a product or drug has been found to be safe and effective, then I have no hesitation in recommending it.
Yeah. Now, I want to take up what Keisha said there, because Ticketmaster said if you don't take the vaccine or proof of tested negative, you won't enter into their events. And it is like you're going to have companies who are going to have their personal and their special sort of regulation. Is it? And people are talking about these. There's a petition going around saying that there won't be any sort of impact in the sense of regulatory way whereby human rights should be affected. But I'm concerned about what Michelle Clarke is saying here, and you need to explain this. The first lady that tested it here in the USA got very ill from it, and she hasn't been spoken of ever since. I don't know what Michelle is alluding to. She's not been spoken of ever since. We don't know if she died or not. I don't know. Let's move on from there.
But no, I think there's the side effects people obviously are concerned about, isn't it? What the side effects are, and I think one person said it's similar to like having a hangover, and I think one said it's similar to having a flu. So it's I suppose that's what it's
I think
about
it's all
there.
very individual, isn't it? And again, very new. The drug companies will have to provide what side effects, what to look out for. This is all standardized. Whenever you get a medication from your GP or from the hospital, it's always going to have disclaimers. It's always going to have the side effect profile and things and features to look out for. So we'll come to a point where this will be available. It looks and they'll have to be approved by drug agencies across in the UK and Europe and obviously the Americas as well. And we'll figure that out from the trials from the trial data that will have to be published at the end of this.
Yeah. Well, guys, I mean, we're on lockdown now. We went on to vaccine first because vaccine was the most important thing. Somebody said there was, I don't know if there's a link to this, there's a vehicle that drove into a police station in Tottenham, and somebody sent it to me, and the person said people are actually under pressure, that they're just going crazy. Anyway, I found out after that it wasn't linked to any pressure. But at the same time, there's a sort of pressure which is happening on persons regarding lockdown. What's your take on it? Is lockdown having this devastating effect that the vaccine, while it is good and may work, but is lockdown creating a devastating impact upon people's lives?
Well, personally, I think so. I personally think we are really underestimating the effect. We talked about mental health quite a bit here on the show for some time, but there's a lot of people out there losing their jobs. I think it was Tony asked what's my profession. My profession, of course, I work in HR. I'm an HR manager, and also I'm also a political commentator. But my issue is that I'm seeing a lot of people who have lost their jobs or are losing their jobs, going through the redundancy process, and I've got people calling me for advice. And people are really, really struggling out there because a lot of companies are shedding jobs, and it means that people are concerned about their livelihood. So you've got people who are shut-ins, because especially if you're shielded and you're told by the government you have to shield, you're at home, you're sat at home. It's another thing that you have to think about. You can't work, you can't participate in your day-to-day activities. You might be able to go and walk about, but that's just not enough. And you've got our elderly people, a lot of them. How many stories have we heard so far of people not being able to see their families, and you don't know how long this will be going on for. So whilst the government think about it as a financial, think about it as saving lives in terms of COVID, people staying indoors, the knock-on effect of that is really crippling a lot of people, mental health conditions, and it's also the other health services as well. So that other people with other serious conditions, people don't want to be going to the hospitals, for because they don't know if they should be going in the first place. They can't see their GPs. Everything is done over the phone. Today, I mean, for me, I mean, this is a bit trivial from my point of view. I think I told you my phone wasn't working, but it was a big thing because I'm thinking if my phone's not working, how am I going to get it fixed? And I do my banking on my phone. These are the sort of basic things now that you think to yourself you haven't thought about. And I'm going to have to go through this for like another 3 weeks. And to just imagine somebody who's told, that you lost your job, and you need to go and find a job, and you don't know where to start. If you're working for a company for 20, 30 years and having to start on scratch, where do you even
Yeah.
begin? So this is a level of seriousness that I think people, or mental health strain that people and their families are going through, that I don't think we really talk about and we really fully understand. So yes, from my point of view, I think it's doing so much harm to people that we're not really fully understanding.
Can there be anything good that comes out of lockdown, David, other than people isolating and people staying together? Can there be anything good come out of lockdown?
I feel like you put me on the spot, like I'm
I know,
Keisha
I know,
here. I have to feel like I'm
I know.
Keisha.
Yeah,
The proponent of lockdowns here. I don't know. Okay, I'll be the balance.
yeah,
Positivity. You touched on a couple of things there. Obviously, connectivity with family members, and I think time for self-reflection as well. That's there's plenty of time to sort of go about your tasks and do extra work, because I think that being at home does put that extra added pressure on you. But I'm here to talk about the positives, of course. So the positive here is that you do have time for self-reflection. You do have time to try and take an interest in things that I guess you wouldn't have normally found at points in time in your life because of other distractions. So there are a few silver linings to being in a position where you can be more proactive in the things that you would do. You can be more mindful of the trajectory of the things you want to do. You're not commuting as much as you would have done. So time on the road and so on and so forth. You can actually spend doing things with a bit more positive. At home, there's obviously the economic impact of probably saving a little bit of money as well from not having to commute. Speaking to one of my patients, they were talking about the relatives not having to travel into to London as much, and so with that in mind, it means they're saving sort of £1,500 a year. So that money's going elsewhere. But I've done my bit there for Keisha. But I can't say much more positive than that. I think my thing here is health, and we've heard today that waiting list for elective procedures has been the highest it's been since 2008. I think it was 2008. I have to be fact checked on that, but it's been for a long while. We've not had as high a number for people waiting greater than 52 weeks for a procedure in the NHS. And that's because of COVID, quite obviously. And the fallout of that is that these procedures will need to be done. Money will have to be invested from somewhere. It's going to cripple or potentially help to cripple the economy even further. These things are unfortunately going under the radar in one respect, because they say other health conditions have really taken a back burner. And that's my particular concern with the way that the things have gone. Quite obviously, we have to pay attention to COVID, but we also have to pay attention equally to other health conditions, if not greater to other health conditions that will affect people going forward.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for coming on, and with Dr. David Burton and Keima Allen. Keisha is here. Actually, she's on the sideline there, but she's still contributing.
Hi, guys.
And please like and share this video. I did my walk this morning, and if I had a chance and I'd put it together, I could have showed you with my walking this morning. And I was talking and asked the question: is there anything good that can come out of lockdown? And I started to work on lockdown. Lockdown is that you're prevented from actually going to your job. If you're a person who works like in some particular field, you're prevented. The car wash which is close by. My wife said to me that actually a police guy stood out there the other day because they're open out to the lockdown, and they closed them. Now, there are about 5 or 6 guys normally working there every day. So can you imagine their lives now being impacted by not being able to have a means of living? Christmas is coming. The geese is getting fat. Who's going to put the money in the old man hat? But, people are going to have that impact. And I started to figure what is it that can come out of lockdown. And then it came to me as one thing: time. Time which is landing in your hands. The people are wanting time, some time to spend with their families, time to reevaluate their lives, time, which is so precious. So I said, okay, time. Now, time is a precious thing. Time takes a. Many people try to find time to do certain things. So I said, time. So if people can actually utilize the time, as you said, David, and someone said earlier, spend time with your family, spend time with your kid. Well, does that turn into cash? Or so? That's
Like a
a question. But do you think time is something which is very precious that can be a positive impact?
No doubt. I mean, time is sacred, no? So, we're not promised the next day, and that's why I commented on the fact that you get time for self-reflection, sort of putting your mind and resetting your mind and recharging your batteries. And I do think that we probably go about our lives not really reflecting on yourself to a greater or lesser extent. I think a lot of the time that we would across the board, I'm not talking for sort of individuals, but across the board here, I think a lot of the time that we invest is in, work and families, and that's fine. That's fine to do. But I think a little inward investment in yourself, making sure you've got the sort of the tools at hand to deal and navigate with life's challenges, and also just reflecting on the positivities of life as well. Just saying, okay, well, I'm really thankful for this event occurring in my life, and I'm really gracious in sort of in the fact that I'm able to do and achieve the things that I do. And that self-reflection, that inward thankfulness is something that I don't think across the board we feel we have enough time for. So sitting down, meditating, getting your mind right, as I said, is key and essential to sort of progressing positively through life. And on top of that, just finding time to do some tasks that you would really want to do, reading, working out. Again, all of these things are going to rapping. Yeah, exactly. We're among one of the greatest rappers of all time, sat over there. So, and appreciating that great rap as well. So I think that there are key things that we are afforded with, and quite obviously it's just divvying up of that time. And I think the positive that I say again is that the fact that we would be working from home and don't have to travel as much. I used to travel, this is irrespective of COVID, I used to travel for an hour and a half one way, an hour and a half the back, just driving. And whilst you might feel like you can afford yourself time to sort of reflect on things, you still have to concentrate on the road that's around you. Whereas now I can get up in that hour that I have before and after finishing work, I can do other tasks, I can do other things, I can focus on other things, and my energy is a lot different than it was previously. So yeah, time is sacred and time is precious, and the silver lining of COVID affording us this time is something that should be taken positively.
Keima, unless you want to come in on saying something,
I think that's a fantastic opportunity for some people. Obviously, it's not everybody who's well, actually, I should have put it this way: there are some people who's actually making the most of the situation and sort of reflecting on their life experience and how what's been happening to them. In previously, for example, you mentioned about going into London quite a bit, and for me, I'm mindful of reflect on a lot of single parents. I think it's for them. I think it's a good opportunity this working from home, where it's they're easy to be able to pick up their children, reduce the cost on childcare as well, reduce the cost on travel, and I think, of course, in the long run you'll find that a lot of children will benefit from that, and also people who really are stuck in dead end jobs. They want something else to do, and opportunity for them to start up their own business. So you can look at it as a very in a positive light and sort of work out, as you said, reflect on how we could make the best of the situation that we're in.
Interesting thing you mentioned about entrepreneur, because this Sunday night I'm going to be having a gentleman called Dr. Henley Morgan, and he's going to be talking about Jamaica. One of my things what I'm going to do a lot on my Jamaica show, he's going to talk about how so many entrepreneurs Dr. Andy Morgan, that's the guy, the Agents for Inner City Renewal in Trenchtown. He's got his organization in Trenchtown there in Jonestown, and talk about entrepreneur, the social enterprise in Jamaica. So we're going to touch on that. That's a plug for Sunday night at 8 p.m. But what is very interesting though is what Keisha said on the sideline there. What Keisha said, make time to do things you have been putting on hold, and it is so crucial because I believe that somehow through it all, that there's something going to be breaking and something going to go forward. And also, you can actually lock down negative thoughts out of your mind. So lockdown don't have to be negative. You can find positive, lock down negative, lock down crazy people, lock down haters, lock everything. And but David, I want to quickly go on to something here because they've been talking about lots of waiting list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lots of waiting lists, and because of the waiting list, hospital care in London worst. Year-long wait in England since 2008.
There you go. I was right. Okay. Thank you for fact checking me. I feel better.
Yeah. Patients are meant to be seen within 18 weeks, but nearly 140,000 up to 4.35 million on waiting lists at the end of September had waited over a year.
Correct. There you
People
go.
waiting 12 months. Surgeons said it was a tragic thing. Patients are being left in pain while they waited for treatment. In recent weeks, major hospitals in Bradford, Leeds, Nottingham, Birmingham, Liverpool, which have seen high rates of inflation, have announced the mass cancellation of non-urgent work. That's a terrible impact because of COVID happening as well.
No doubt.
That's already.
No doubt. And that's, again, I did say it's an unwritten thing, but at least we're getting a little bit of report or small reports on this. But I just don't know it's gaining the traction and momentum that is justified in this regard, because that's my worry, my fear, my anxiety, all wrapped into one. To say that there are other things aside from COVID that need to have closer inspection, because if not, we're going to end up with a COVID crisis with our normal health, amongst our normal health conditions,
Yeah.
and then we're repeating the same cycle again in terms of thinking about investment and the numbers of people who are passing away, unfortunately, that could have been treated with respect to treatments in the NHS. And it's not just the mortality; it's the morbidity. So you heard about the patient's pain there, and that was the thing. And living with pain, living with discomfort is something that we should really hold to high regard. It's not palatable to have to live with conditions like that, and that's why we have the treatments employed. We're able to do them, but we're not able to do them in the same manner now because of the grasp on COVID and the attention that COVID has had. So yeah, we need to get back to basics. We need to look to reduce the numbers, but patients are more than that number. We need to get these patients into our facilities in a safe manner, and find effective ways of doing that, and challenging the current system, which is allowing the increase in number of these patients with treatable conditions.
Well, that's very interesting. But let's hope that deals with the matter there. Keima, in the last word on that bit there about people are now scared of going to hospital. At the same time, again, David, some are willfully not wanting to go.
Yeah, and again, we've got to be able to. And I ask a couple of my patients this as they come into my clinics, what they feel about the environment that they're in, and just to set a standard of what we're finding here is that patients feel safe, and I think we could do more to try and make sure that they realize that coming into our hospitals is safe, when they need to come in, that is, and where it's safe to do so. So setting out adequate physical distancing of patients, making sure people are wearing masks, obviously within the facility, and making sure we adhere to the cleaning of our environments. I think that's the key. And we need to make sure we stress that to our patients where we can. And the most patients who come into my environment, in fact, more often than not, all of them are happy being there, because obviously they're in the environment, right? But they always express comments, and we take those comments on board as well. But we've got to strive to improve even more. So we can't rest on our laurels. We've got to encourage patients in. We've got to make sure that they're aware that the NHS is open for business for other health conditions.
Yes. Keisha,
Absolutely. Yeah, I would.
yeah,
Yeah, I was just gonna say as well that a lot of people, obviously, they're hesitant to go into because they don't want to feel that they're going to catch a COVID when they go to the hospital themselves. But if you've visited any hospital quite recently, you'll know it's very much a very safe environment, and there's all the precautions out there. As soon as you go in, you'll get a mask. Your hands, the hand gels are quite available for you there, and so it's quite a very safe, and they take it very seriously. So of course, if anybody's got any sort of underlying conditions that they need to go and see besides COVID, they should go and see the go feel safe to go and go to the hospital.
yeah. And there's a recent case in Jamaica where this guy was at Sentence Bay Hospital, and he was on the ground for a while. I think he was having tummy ache, and he was trying to get some help. And they were saying that they think he has COVID. Anyway, I think I saw it in the papers again that he never had COVID. He had some appendix thing, and
Mm,
they got him sorted out. But and they're doing some investigation into the hospital as to why he was outside and his wife was, the guy was saying, I'm dying," because he was having this
mm,
pain. So that's the whole thing about COVID again, which create this fear, especially in countries whereby the facilities is poor.
mm.
There's not that much. So it is very interesting as well. But anyway, let's move on quickly. We have to touch this one because I try to avoid it, but I think we have to touch it because we need to give David his coffee elect. You know, because ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, we made a bet that if Trump wins, if Biden wins, David gets coffee, but the coffee that he's gonna get is a coffee elect. Not projected coffee.
I can patiently wait until January, until the swearing in ceremony. I can patiently wait. I can wait for a good cup of coffee. I don't mind. The sweeter the sweeter the coffee, the longer the wait. Right? That's how I feel about things. Um,
well, I don't know what. I mean, I'm very vocal on this whole matter still, so I sort of reserve my views. But is it Biden president elect or president projected now? What's your take on this, Keisha? Keima, let's go for this first.
No, you've got to give it to him. I don't think there's any way now that Trump could actually overturn the decision. I know he's been a very vocal that the media had actually caused the election for Biden, without, of course, all the votes being counted. But from a projection point of view, there's no way that he'll be able to overturn the votes, even if he wanted to. I mean, of course, there isn't haven't been found any. I shouldn't say any, but there shouldn't the number of legal votes, if you want to put it that way, for it to be overturned. And there might, you depends on which media you listen to. If you listen to the more of the right wing media, you'll find that there's a lot of comments around the dead people voting and people voting showing up. Votes being counted after the time that it's supposed to be. So they've got all that so-called evidence that, of course, they've got to put to the courts and see if the courts would accept it as a reason. But even with that, it would not be sufficient in itself to turn the elections. It's just a matter of time for President Trump to hand over the reins to Biden. So that's how it's going to be.
David, do you think there's any merit in going through this whole court process, or should Donald Trump just, against the fact that there's allegations, should just bypass it and just say, "Listen, just go. I'm going to my golf course."
Listen, I think it would be unfair for there not to be due diligence in regards to the way that Trump wants to carry out the kind of assessment as to whether or not these votes are valid. So that has to take place. I guess the question is whether that upsets the apple cart, which it currently is, and the way that he could do and go about that. I guess if you concede in this particular manner, then it's kind of game over in regards to the courts in any case. But I don't particularly think this is good for the politics of a country. I think that we've probably got it far too quick maybe in this country, in that we have the election night and then it's boom, done, basically in and out. The if there's a change in the guard, then the delivery truck comes in that morning and the PM is out and the new PM is in. But I do think it's very brutal. It's cutthroat, right? So maybe that's a little bit too quick, because you don't get any room for accountability in regards to votes, etc. However, on the flip side, waiting so long until January and pulling this out, is not very good for the projection of of democracy in one regard, because it's a long-winded affair. People can critique it for a prolonged period of time. The way that the votes are counted in states is completely different. And I know that the room and the rules per state are already well publicized, but I do think that it just makes people feel there's a little bit of a mock show going on there. However, that being said, I don't think there's any way that Trump will be the president of the United States come January. I don't think Keima, he'll be handing over any reins whatsoever. They'll have to be wrestled from his cold hand. I'm not going to say that he's passing with that, but they have to be wrestled away. And I think that the transition will not be smooth. I don't think there's going to be a Trump that turns up for the inauguration, for example. I don't think there's a Trump that says you won this election fair and square. His background teaches us that, and I just can't see him basically saying, yes, Joe, you won.
But do you think that with the advent of these various allegations, these various dead people walking or whatever like that, or I see dead people voting, if these things are dealt with in the courts and they are dealt with properly, and some of them lawsuits are dismissed, or like Georgia, they're going to recount over 5 million, the person said they're going to be doing hand count until November the 20th. If these things are done properly, then there's no ground that he can stand, and therefore that can deal with this whole thing as to whether or not there's any fraud.
It's a good point, but I just can't see him backtracking on in his words today. I think he's always going to feel that some votes came in at the wrong time, and to basically change the dynamics about the election. We've obviously heard recently, regards to the vaccine action, the vaccine news coming out after the fact of the election somewhat swayed it. So I just don't think he's going to, and that's not, if he did, I would be very shocked, because then that would not be Donald Trump. He's a winner at the end of the day in his eyes, and he's not a loser. And so I don't think he will accept it gracefully. But that's him. If he doesn't want to, that's perfectly fine.
My thinking is that the legal process is all right. Gore did it, and Carter did it at the same time. So it's a process that goes through. November the 20th, Georgia said they're going to count it until, Michelle just reminded me, December the 14th is when the certification by the different electoral college, and then January the 20th, where you got the swearing-in thing. I just say to people, it's there now. Just go through the process. And if there's dead people walking, and I must say, when I watched that thing with Thanos, Avengers, Avengers.
Yeah.
When Thanos was there and he clicked the finger, and then all of them died. Then all of a sudden, Thanos was there again, which was now Boris. No, not Boris. I mean, Trump. I said Boris. Trump. And then Captain America was who? Biden. Yeah. Leading the way. All the dead people came back up. It's very interesting that all these dead people came back up and fighting Trump. So I don't know, but one of the things though, what I find very interesting about the postal system in America, I do postal vote here, but I have to send it in, isn't it? You got to send it in and you get it back. They don't just send it to you just like that. You got to send in it and request it. But in America, what they did, they sent out vote ballots like dirt. Everybody got that ballot. The same people are going to vote, they got ballot. So that's why a lady was saying she saw her grandmother voted and she was dead.
But the other thing I would say though is in regards to Georgia, even if there's a flip and a change there, it doesn't really change anything in regards to the electoral college.
Yes,
The numbers
yes.
are speak
No,
for
no.
themselves. So
Yeah,
And that's what I was saying initially as well, that even if you find some irregularities in some of these areas, it still would not be enough for Trump to overturn the votes. But I think nearer to home, we've got to start thinking about, of course, this transition to where Biden, now president elect, will be president, the relationship he would have with Boris, and whether that's going to be workable for us in getting a trade deal um, following Brexit. And I think
yeah.
that's my, I think, biggest concern at the moment, because of course we know Boris had made some comments, some unsavory comments about Obama, which of course Joe Biden is aware of. And so I'm not quite sure how that relationship with Foster. I understand Foster very well, but I understand they've had a conversation, they had a call, but they weren't talking about Brexit. But I think that would be the sticking point for us, whether how that working relationship or develop. And it'll be interesting, I think.
Well, what Michelle said here, Joe is the biggest loser. He said Joe is the biggest, and if Joe wins, we'll have to move. And I think Trump had said, if I win, if I lose against Joe, Sleepy Joe, I got to leave. So he's gonna go to Scotland, and if Scotland, but I think he has his backpack for Jamaica, but Jamaicans not gonna have him there, so I don't know where he's going.
well, you know, he was from Jamaica, Queens. In New
Oh, he's
York.
from Jamaica, Queens, yes.
Yeah.
So therefore, he's a Jamaican.
He's Jamaican, apparently so.
You know, but honestly, I decided that I'm not going to post too much on this Trump thing. That's why I've been posting my videos of me dancing, so people. Well, so do you
That's your
think?
coping strategy.
Huh?
That's the coping strategy.
That's my coping strategy as well. You know, but one more thing though that I saw in the news recently, and they were talking about the Senate, and whereby the Green Party, not Green, no, what do you call them? The
Rebellion, extinguish.
ethnic rebellion group there.
Yeah.
What they did, they post something on the Senate, and the police stood around for a long time, allowing it to happen. Then Nick Farrar was saying, hang on a second, why didn't stop them at first? I said, because it wasn't illegal. Then why did you take it up after? If you don't believe.
Really?
Yeah. So the police removed it, the whole thing. And that's the whole thing about the defecation, not in a sense defecation, but the of these things which are
The
happening.
monuments. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's strange, Glenn. Then you do find that people who do things to monuments generally get found out and get either locked up or fined or cautioned. So you've seen people do that and they get into trouble for it. And I think that we should allow that same kind of process to occur. Because I don't think sort of having anything disrupted to a monument that's a statue that's marked or commemorates a particular value. I don't think that should be something that I don't think you should be allowed to do something that sort of brings that down, really, so to speak.
I want to bring up one more thing here before we go, and the chairman for the FIFA football. I find it a very interesting thing because I remember when I first came to this country, and when I'm trying to say for instance, I see you or David, and I'm trying to say my colleague, my colleague there, the guy there, I will also get confused and say, should I say colored? Should I say black? Sometimes, or people, I don't know. Sometimes when you're talking to another race, you're trying to find the right words to say at the same time. Do you think he should resign? Well, okay, let's give a background. What he said is colored. He said colored.
He did.
And not. What's the right thing? What's the right thing?
But he said some other things as well.
Let's leave the other things.
But yeah, he said, but particularly for this one, and the reason why this is an interesting topic because it's only funny. Yesterday, I had two of my managers actually. Of course, they're white. I'm black. And I appreciate the fact, of course, we could have open discussions. And they did ask me about what's my thoughts about it. And before I told them my thoughts, it was like one of the reasons why they're asking is because back in the day, obviously they're much older than me.
Yes.
Black, the word black, referring to black people, was deemed as inappropriate. And colored was actually apparently the word that they used to use because that's what people used to call black people at the time. And he was questioning at which point did it all change from colored to black. And I thought that was quite interesting point of view. But for me as a person, I take colored as very a derogatory term. One of the reasons, of course, I think of it as South, deep South America, and the affiliation to the slave trade and slavery. It's that's how deep the word is. But of course, you can't take the word out of context. You've got to take it into the true meaning of it. But for me, that to me, I feel that is I find it very offensive.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at what you just said. I'm laughing at the comment. So
box of crayons.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard sort of the poem which talks about the word coloured and the cheek of it all to be called coloured when we don't have very many different colours, but other people do. So I think with this regard, you can't take what he said just out of context. You've got to look at the broader speech, and again, Keima's touched on that. The broader context of what he was saying, I don't think was very positive. He talked about the fact that you've got to look at the fact that Asian. I'm ad-libbing here a little bit, but he was talking about African Caribbeans and Asians and the positions that they find themselves in, and the way he articulated that wasn't really positive. It was quite a negative kind of context. And then obviously we talk about sort of women, and I think that the whole thing wasn't very well put together. And obviously on stage, on open forum, talking about this. And whilst I'm not saying I'm completely accepting of what people say in a private space, if it's in a private discussion, that's different to being on a public stage. And I think that's probably the reason why he succumbed to having to resign. But I think it's a difficult one with the word colour. I'll have patients that will say coloured, or they'll say black, or they'll say many different things, and it's a term that people may well find offensive. But also, I think you've got to hold on to how that term is coming across. Is it in a frame of light to suggest negativity, or is it a descriptive term? And in the States they say people of color, whereas here in the UK we say black. And so there's a mixture of ways of identifying people. But so for me, it boils down to the context in which it's being used. Yeah. But for this particular discussion with regards to the ex-FA chairperson, I think it was the whole discussion that he had on that forum, of which the word coloured was one part of it. And I don't think, even if you pass the coloured thing, I think there was a lot of things that were said that you have to think, is he really aware contextually of things that should be said and shouldn't be said on a public forum?
Interesting what you said, because Johnny Barnes, when he went on Nick Ferrari, I heard it this morning. Nick Ferrari said, okay, well, we got somebody who believe he should not have been fired, or he shouldn't have gone. And then Johnny Barnes said, yeah, I agree, he should not have gone because of that. He should have gone because of many other things.
I didn't listen to that, but honestly, that's how I feel about the whole discussion. As a comment, as a one phrase comment, and he wasn't, if it was just that and there was nothing else, as a one thing, I don't think I would have a big issue. I mean, I'd have an issue, but not a big issue, because he's from a certain time frame, and I'm not saying I'm accepting of that, but I'm just saying it's just one of those things. But it's the whole array of that whole dialogue. It just was very uncomfortable looking at that, and I think that's what was his downfall.
Let's dissect words. Keima, Michelle, everybody on. Let's dissect words. Colored. Yes, I mean to say, as Michelle said, we are. I put what Michelle said. Michelle said, we are not a box
of crayons.
I like in context. We're not a box of crayons, and definitely not colored. So therefore, let me ask this question then. People of color, what does that mean then? Isn't it say that you're colored? I don't know.
That's the thing. It's used. People of color is used mainly in America. It's not really used here.
But it is deemed as appropriate here. You should have said people of color.
No, I don't know.
We don't say.
No, we don't say that.
It's not appropriate here. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I think initially, but I did preface that before, years ago, color used to be appropriate, but now it's not.
Hold on.
I will say one thing.
Michelle is saying in the USA they don't say people of color. They call us the minor. Listen, man, that's it.
I'm
Minorities,
confused.
hear me, everything they're calling us.
But they call Kamala. They've
Well,
been calling
yes,
Kamala a person of
person of
color
color. Yeah,
because she's
and
half Asian and you're black, and so that's what to simplify it, they call her woman of color.
exactly. And Keir Starmer referred to her as a person of color, and I think he was showing identity with the Americas when he said that.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit strange out of context. But if you look at the tweet, he congratulates her Kamala Harris as the first person of color, and I don't see any offense with that. I just think that what we're doing is we're going back in time and we're saying, well, actually, we can't use the context of colored because that's deemed unacceptable in this country. But again, that's why I said, for me, it's about how the context of the word is being used. Even if somebody was to use the word black, if they were trying to insinuate something negative, then that's different. Do you know what I mean?
But also, it's ultimately, I suppose we don't talk enough to one another about how we feel as well, because a very point there where Kamala feel comfortable to be called a woman of color, and so it's I suppose it's okay for the media and everybody else to refer to as woman of color, but of course when you've got other people may not find that comfortable, then you've got to adjust how you respond or what you say to them.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one because we can't really find a term that would be wholly encompassed by everybody, and obviously we can't identify people from where they're at. So you can't. There's an interesting one with regards to Afro-Caribbean, where people say Afro is a hairstyle, and African Caribbean, and then some people say, well, I don't identify with being African, I identify with being Caribbean. We can't please everybody with regards to terminology. I think that's the key thing here. So with the ex-chairperson, again, it comes down to what he was saying. Everything else was just.
But just to add on that, David, is that I grew up, referring to myself as Afro-Caribbean, and then I come to this country, I'm told that I'm not supposed to be Afro-Caribbean, I'm supposed to be African-Caribbean.
That's it. So that was a bit. That's what I'm trying to say. Exactly. So Afro-Caribbean, African-Caribbean, etc., etc. So we're getting in that kind of ballpark where.
I'm glad that Maudlin Allen coming right here and set it being clear. Why there's so much emphasis on how to address black people? What is the right way to? I'm sure white people are confused now. Just me.
and that is the very problem I think we have. White people, we expect them to just know, and really, they don't. So when they say, I've been in a lecture the other day, and there was this one girl who attended on our behalf, and she was talking about diversity, and she was trying to refer to black people, but she said colored in it, and I was like, I almost sank under the chair. But I know that she didn't mean that intentionally. Do you know what I mean? Exactly. It's just that she just doesn't know how to refer to black people.
Again, it's about context. It's about context. It's not about the word itself. So, I hate that black guy is, that's, identifying the black person in the room. You say, I hate that. That context is not right. But, I work with other black people as a Caucasian. I work with other black people. Then that's not racist. You know what I mean? There's no negativity there.
Let me clarify, David. So when you say I hate that black guy, you're not saying it's racist. Are you saying it's racist?
No. What I'm saying is, if you identify and picking on a black guy because he's black, and you're saying I hate black people, say I hate black people. Okay, that's different, right? That's for me is a sign of racism. But the word black isn't the problem. It's the way that you're emphasizing the fact that you hate black people. But if you said I work with black people in my everyday practice and blah 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 blah, I don't have a problem with somebody saying the word black.
Funny you say that, David. But if somebody said to me, I work with colored people, I would find that offensive. But in America, I suppose you don't. But I would find that offensive because that's not how you refer to people in the UK. You're black people. Do you know what I mean? So I think we need to adjust to the environment, I suppose, the society that we're in. And of course, I do, understandably, you have to feel it for some white people who really do not understand the terms on when it's changed and, what they're supposed to be saying, So it's an interesting position to be in. Yeah.
So Michelle Clarke makes a very powerful statement. They know, they know exactly what we're saying. Can one agree with that statement there? That all know what they know? Because if they know what they know, well, they're better off than me because I don't know really
I
what
don't know. I don't know.
But
I don't know what
if you
I
go
don't
I
know.
back
don't
to the situation I was just telling you, the example I was just giving, where that girl was trying to give us an update based on a presentation that she saw and a seminar she went to, and not knowing how to refer to black people. It just shows to me it's not they necessarily don't understand. They really don't know what to say.
Well, that's food for thought and for taking another time because I don't think it makes us any more clearer. So I think the question is this now. So what would you want someone to address you as, Keima?
Well, I kind of make it up for myself. I'm African, Caribbean, West Indian, anything around that. It's
So
good
you,
for
so
me.
so you want so you're gonna tell
I
them you're
prefer
gonna
to be
tell
called West Indian. I do. I prefer to be called West Indian. But
them,
in this country, if you have to, you don't define as your country. You define as either black, white, or anything. So if I have to go with that, it'll be black.
and David, what would you want to be referred as?
Dr. David Burton, Esquire.
And for me, I'll say SYLBOURNE SYDIAL, straight out the Ochi, the rapper, all the people in the place to be, rap on the mic, turntable, you see, I'm black or anything you want to call me. It doesn't make a difference because I know who I am. In it.
Okay.
Boom.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
What a way. Mic. Where's the mic drop there? We need the mic drop.
Oh no, I said I need a mic drop right there. Boom.
He's working on our next career move. Well, that's what happened to
That's it.
lockdown, isn't it? You're
That's
just
it.
thinking about your next move.
We need
That's
us,
it.
and Keisha is right, and that's why I'd love to get James on this show sometime. We need a safe space for people, generally, to talk about these sort of issues because it's taboo, and people are treading on eggshell when they were talking. If that girl had a safe space, Keisha, she would know what to say, you know. But that's the thing there. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's something I like you to think about, and you can just simply say, what do you prefer to be called if you're black, colored, people of color, or black? And don't get offended by me saying that. It's just because there are confusion going around. Colored, people of color, or black, or BME, BME,
Oh no.
BAME, BME, ethnic
But you
minority.
know, we know most black people don't want to be called BMA.
Yes.
But for some reason, it's
David,
stuck with us.
David, what do we call it then? BME, what?
Yeah. Black and mentally effective.
Black and mentally effective. That's
There
what
you
we
go.
change it to. That's it.
That's
Call
what
me
we
that.
changed it
Black
to.
and mentally effective. All right. Any last word? What's the projection for next week?
More talk on vaccinations, more talk on COVID, possibly a little bit of Brexit, and definitely some coffee.
Definitely some coffee. Okay.
Well, you're gonna be you'll have to wait till January because, of course, we're still counting votes, aren't we?
Well, I think Georgia will count early, man. They've got it. Well, they said the 20th, didn't they? Did they say the 20th? So I have to wait till Friday. Sorry, Friday. My bad.
Somebody, yeah.
So I can turn on the coffee machine. Maybe I turn on the coffee machine.
Well, I got some Blue Mountain
Pick a pod.
coffee. I got some Blue Mountain coffee right here, so you have nothing to worry about. That's all covered virtually. Or for the meantime, you'll just stick with coffee projected.
There you go. Coffee
Nothing
projected.
elect. Coffee projected.
We're going backwards now.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for coming on, and we did a good one. 22 past 12. Good topics this evening, and for us to talk about vaccines. Will you take vaccines or not? And if not, why not? Do you believe that you have to take it, or you're going to hide? Or what about your children? Do you think your children should take it? Or if your children have to take it to go into school, will you withdraw your children from school and teach them from home, which many people are saying? And as regarding COVID, if you are finding yourself with some sickness, underlying sickness, will you decide that you're not going to go into the hospital because you fear, as some thing has happened to other people, that they go in there without COVID and they come back with COVID, and things happen. And of course, with Donald Trump, what do you think? You think he's still the president? Well, of course he's still the president. But do you think he'll be the president, or is it Joe Biden and Kamala got it already? The woman of color. That's what she says. She's a woman of color. For the record, I'm not being facetious or anything like that. And yeah, so that's it. Am I fair? Is that a fair statement? I must say.
I think it's fair. It's fair. It's fair.
It's a fair statement.
Good, good, good. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember to like and subscribe to the SYLBOURNE Show. And remember, this Sunday, we'll have Dr. Henley Morgan looking at Jamaica and talking about how he's doing it in the inner city and how the social enterprise and entrepreneurs. Jamaica is a country of entrepreneurs, believe it or not just bringing music and Usain Bolt, but also, and I tell you, I'm not going to say it, but he has some studies that talks about Jamaica as at some top level with entrepreneurs. You got to watch it and see that for sure, definitely. All right. Have a good night.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Good night.